We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it's come. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it's come. Till the lives of black men and black mothers' sons are as important as white men and white mothers' sons. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it's come. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it's come. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it's come. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it's come. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it's come. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it's come. I was born by the river in a little tent, and just like that river I'm running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gon' come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard living, and I'm afraid to die. I don't know what's out there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gon' come. Oh, yes, it will. So I go to my brother. I say, brother, help me, please. But he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. Oh, there's been times when I didn't think I could last for long, but now I know I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh yes, it will.
I want to welcome everyone to the 34th Annual Martin Luther King Commemoration and Spirit Hall of Fame. I am James Mason, President of the Board of Directors for the Media Fellowship House. Happy to be here, happy to see everybody here. And before we get into the core of the show, I would like to just do a few acknowledgments. First, anybody here who is with the Media Fellowship House Board, could you please stand and be recognized? Okay. Yeah. And I say that for two reasons. One, to recognize them. Number two, because after this event, if you have any questions about the organizations or whatever, these are the people you can talk to and to get information. Second, I would like to give some recognition to the team that met every week, the core team that met every week for probably the last 2 to 3 months to get all this together. Now in this, I'll be reading off some names and asking those people to stand. I'll ask the audience to please hold your applause. I'll give you a cue when it's time to do that. So, first, from the Media NAACP, we have President Cynthia Jenner. Please stand. Thank you. We have first Vice President Akilah Evans-Pigford. Where are you? There you go, in the back. We have from the Media Fellowship House, Programs Committee Chair Carla Schuett-Reed. And we have from the Media Fellowship House, Executive Director A.M.E. Komarnicki. There you go. It's funny. I have to wear these to read this, but I can't see you out there with these. You know, I really want to say this team, this core team that met every week, I really feel like it's something special. And you know, we said it in our meetings. You know, we'd have our meetings, and it just felt so good working together, and it really meant a lot to me, especially because this is my last year as president of the Media Fellowship House. So to be able to spend one last time with you guys really meant a lot to me. So thank you, and I want to give a round of applause. Now, the last person I called out, A.M.E. Komarnicki, I can pronounce your name right now. She runs our office, she manages our staff, she helps to manage the housing programs. You know, she really is like everything for us. She's the face of our organization, basically. And that's why I'm just so glad that you wore a nice outfit today. Thank you, A.M.E. I'm wearing a Alpha Phi Alpha shirt because I didn't know this until recently, that apparently Martin Luther King was a member of Alpha Phi Alpha. I did not know that. Now, another reason why I'm wearing this today is because, first, I don't know why I thought of this, but for some reason I was thinking about my dad, and I was going through some stuff this morning, and I come across this, and I thought, hey, he was a member of Alpha? Got his HMM here? So I want to also, it might not be completely appropriate, I want to give recognition to my dad, the late Henry Morton Mason, who raised me and all that stuff, and he's gone now, but he was a member of Alpha, and I'm glad he joined that organization. All right. Now, I want to tell you that a few years ago, we had a survey of the media residents, and it revealed some interesting things. Number one, everybody in media seems to have a really high opinion of the Media Fellowship House. Number two, very few people in media apparently knew what Media Fellowship House does. So I don't know how that worked, but I want to take a minute just to tell you a little something about us. Number one, we're a charitable organization. We work for social and economic justice in Delaware County. We do that through our programs, social media, events that we coordinate. The mainstay of our work is really housing solutions for low to moderate income people. And in 2022, here's some vital stats. We helped 6 families get closing cost money to help them secure homes. We helped 36 families receive an estimated $216,000 to help them stay in their homes. 21 families received over 100 hours of counseling to help them avoid foreclosure. And over 400 families got assistance applying for more emergency rental assistance, which helped them to stay in their apartments. There's other things that we do, but we've got limited time. I've only got 2 minutes here. So if you got any more questions, please talk to one of the board members, speak to A.M.E, and they can help you. So that's it, and I'm going to wrap this up and introduce our next speaker. President of the Media NAACP, Cynthia Jenner.
Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. It is so heartwarming to see so many faces in person, so I'm very, very excited with that. The media unit of the NAACP has been a proud partner with the Media Fellowship House in putting on this event for the past 34 years. We often talk about the times when we had Julian Bond as a speaker, Ruby Dee as a speaker. I see people shaking their heads. Ben Hooks, and I was mentioning that we have pictures of our youth group with these people, so we've been engaged for the 34 years. The Media NAACP has been around and established here in media for almost 100 years. We are proud to say that we are part of a bigger movement. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People has well over 1 million members worldwide. We are part of a movement. We are one of the 2,200 units within the country that do the work on the ground in support of our national organization. Of course, people know us. We are the leading civil rights organization. For me, our personal goal is to secure and protect our civil rights. We must stay diligent and remember that civil rights are not in the Constitution. They are not in the Bill of Rights. They deal with legal protections and laws. Civil rights are the legal rights that protect individuals from discrimination. Civil rights are the legal rights that protect individuals from discrimination. We have the right to vote. We have the right to fair trials. We have the right to access and receive quality government services. We have the right to use public facilities. And most of all, we definitely need and have the right for public education, a good, sound public education. We have the right to get gainful employment, decent, safe, and sanitary housing, and good health care. Civil rights are very, very important. We need each and every one of you in your daily lives to give thought to that, to talk with your friends, your neighbors, and most of all, the young people in your family, so they can begin to understand, acknowledge, and appreciate the value of civil rights. One notable connection I'd like to make is that I want to say I feel that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is an honorary citizen of Delaware County. A lot of people may or may not be aware that he lived and resided in the city of Chester, Pennsylvania, a couple of miles down the road, for 3 years while he attended the Crozier Theological Seminary, which is right there on the grounds where Crozier Chester Hospital now stands. The dorm he resided in is still there, and it has a historical marker on it. So this is after he finished his time at Morehouse between 1948 and 1951. Not only did he attend school, he shopped in Chester, dined at the restaurants in Chester, dated a lot of the ladies in Chester. He was a sharp dresser, and he was also an assistant pastor at Calvary Church in Chester. and they have beautiful photos of him with different people and family members and having dinner at their homes in Chester. So what I'd like to say in response to the call to action is that it's very important that we all get involved. Our information is posted on the, well, it's listed on the back of the program, and I'd like any members of the NAACP to stand up and be acknowledged. I know you're here. Let's give them all applause. Thank you. We have more than 150 members, and any of the individuals you saw standing, be sure to engage them in conversation. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to an exciting and invigorating program today. I'd like to take the opportunity now to introduce a young lady that I am so proud of, Miss Bianca Blake, who is the leader of our youth group, and she is doing a magnificent job. This is our future, and this is what we're working towards as a unit.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Bianca Summerose Blake, and I am a 7th grade student at Strathaven Middle School and the president of the Media Area NAACP Youth Council. I am also a 3rd-generation member of this wonderful organization. My mother was a previous youth council president, and my grandmother is the current treasurer of the NAACP adult branch. The heritage of activism and awareness is in my blood. My mother shared with me that before Martin Luther King's birthday was officially recognized as a holiday, that my grandmother would keep her home from school and protest. I also learned that the melanated version of Happy Birthday that we all sing is based off of Stevie Wonder writing a song in support of Dr. King's birthday becoming a federal holiday. My mother also described marching on the embassy of South Africa and protest of apartheid in Washington, D.C. at a national NAACP convention. These were important moments in their lives, and the last 2 years have been pivotal in my life in witnessing and participating in protests of the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery. On a more local level, our youth council stepped up to protest the murder of Fanta Blitty, a 9-year-old girl who was killed by police at a football game in Academy Park High School. I even remember getting in trouble in elementary school for refusing to sing a song about Christopher Columbus because I explained to my classmates in 2nd grade how you can't discover something if people were already there. My ask to all of the adults in this room is to share and talk to the young people in your life about injustice and what they can and should do about it. Share your struggles and experiences so that my generation can understand and perhaps be inspired to take action. We may no longer be segregated, but injustice is still very real today. From microaggression and the need to pass the Crown Act so that Black women are no longer discriminated against for how we wear our hair, to underfunding schools in Black and brown neighborhoods. There are environmental justice issues such as the water crisis in Flint, Michigan, and Jackson, Mississippi, as well as the number of incinerators and trash processing plants right in our own backyards that are affecting the health of residents of Chester. We have food insecurity and food deserts where Black and brown people don't have access to healthy foods in their own communities, as well as violence, as well as the violence we see on the news every day. Talk to the young people about these things that are happening. Encourage them to learn and become more aware, and to speak out and question the system. And become a part of the solution to change the outcomes. Help to bridge the gap between older and newer generations so that the work and activism can continue. My ask is that you join us. Sponsor a student or a young person in your life to become a member. Get involved and support our message when we are in the community. And financial donations are also welcome as we continue the work to make our community a better place. Thank you, and we welcome you all today.
Let us pray. Source of all being, creator of all life, may your goodness find its way into the hearts of all your children. May those who wield power do so with a balance of wisdom, justice, and compassion. May we all feel called to action based on the injustice of racism and see ourselves not as enemies of one another, not in struggle with one another, but as human beings created in the image of God, connected to one another's well-being. May all of us come to acknowledge the racism that is pervasive in our region and our nation. May we commit to sitting down with one another in honest dialogue, opening our hearts in compassion to one another, bearing witness to the pain and fear in one another. May we commit to joining together in acts of justice that will bring about equality in education, economic opportunities, law enforcement, and judicial proceedings. May each of us come to understand that if ultimately our experience of freedom, justice, and peace is inextricably linked to the freedom, justice, and peace of every other person in our county, city, and our country, as well as our world, may we open our eyes to the invisible lines of connection that unite us, and with clarity and vision, continue to work for a world where every person's life is valued, cherished, and loved. Amen.
Let us pray. God, we thank you for fellowship on today. We thank you that all of us can come join together, that we who have come together united on this day to remember the dreamer, God, to remember all that you have done through him. We ask today that hope be on our hearts, that we who have thought it not robbery but to come together in fellowship one with another, that we will take hope when despair looks like it's reaping across the country, that we'll take hope when we see police brutality, that we'll take hope, God, when we see racism, that we'll take hope, oh God, when we see injustice sweeping through the land. God, bind us together that we may join together as one voice, that we may join together as one heart, doing the work that you have called us to do, that we will do it in love, that we will do it in charity with our neighbor. And when it's all said and done, that it all may be pleasing in your sight, that your people have come together, black, white, doesn't matter who, all nations will come together, and we will be at peace. In Jesus' name, we thank you and we praise you. Amen.
That was some powerful preaching. And we got some folks here who know a little something about preaching. We've got special guests. They are the family members of the late, great Reverend Warren Mays. And I'm not sure who in the family here is. There you go.
Hey, everybody! Amen. God is good, and he's worthy to be praised. Amen. We give glory to God just for allowing us ultimately to see another day and to see some of your faces we haven't seen in a long time, so it's good to see you. To the Media Fellowship House, to the Media NAACP, to the borough officials, to the clergy who are here, our church family, Second Baptist, and to the many friends, we thank you ultimately first for setting a few minutes. I can do this. We thank you for taking a few minutes aside to commemorate the life of our father, who was ultimately our pastor and our beloved community leader here in media, Pastor Warren D. Mays, Sr. I stand here alongside my mom, our First Lady, Lenora Mays, two of my siblings, Isaiah Mays here and Ashley Mays,
My brother Warren Mays is not here, along with my sister-in-law, Tamika Mays. They're 3 girls, Mackenzie, Melanie, and Maya. And then our brother-in-law is here. I guess he just forgot the memo to come up, Ty, but it's okay though. So we want to just say thank you. Thank you so much for all the calls, all the cards, all the messages, all the prayers, and all the support. Because we've suffered a great loss. And the community suffered a great loss as well. Dad was a big person. He wasn't that tall, but he was big. Today we've gathered in this place to also commemorate the life of Dr. King, a devoted pastor, a preacher, a leader, a family man committed to his God, to his family, definitely in his community, a man who remained humble, yet stood loud and proud to speak against the injustices many faced. Boy, does this sure sound like my dad, Pastor Mays, the man we knew. I'm not 100% certain, but I would assume by how Dad reminded us that the holiday was not a day off, but it was rather a day to serve, and that we had to make it a point to show up at the infamous MLK service here at the Methodist First Church years ago when they were talking about Dr. Bond being here, and it was packed and news media were everywhere. It was unbelievable, but he made sure he made it a point that we did that. Pastor Mays proclaimed boldly that he was the proud husband of one wife. He spent time with his children. Everybody didn't necessarily knew, but he was a nationally certified Christian counselor. And he would help anyone within the community or if they just looked him up. There was no prerequisite. He didn't charge. You were just able to give whatever it is from your heart to him, and he in turn gave it back to the church. He was a life coach. My brother Isaiah is a high school football coach, and he was the life coach on the team. He was a neighborhood dad to many in our community, and he was the pastor of the Second Baptist Church of Media for 37 years. The church that sits on the other end of the tracks, down there, 400 East State Street, Media, PA, 19063. Pastor was always concerned about what was going on in the community, but more importantly, he wanted to ensure that Second Baptist not only shared the love of Christ with those around them, but that they also embodied a spirit of selflessness and that they selflessly helped others, no matter what they looked like, no matter how they came in, no matter what their economic status might have been. Pastor wanted us to be an open door. Then he even had this strange idea one time to stand outside and wave on Wednesdays because he went up there early for prayer, and prayer was around, I think, like 6 something, maybe 7, and he just found himself outside, I don't know why, in his robe, and he would stand outside and wave and smile and say, good morning, or have a great day, or God bless you, or we're open for prayer, would you like prayer? And it somehow seemed to catch on with people, not just people from our church. It was like a whole team, or people would pull over with their kids and just get out and talk. They even had it on a news story one time, and I was just like, Dad, what are you doing? And he said that you never know what those people may need in the morning before they start their day. Something as simple as a wave, a smile, or if they need a hug or prayer, but to let them know that somebody is there thinking of them, because there are some people who don't have anyone. And so he was there, and he made it a point to be there. And we are grateful for the team that still stands outside to wave on Wednesday. And this past Wednesday, the first Wednesday of the year, happened to be his birthday. And they released balloons, and people came by, and it was awesome. So I'm sure the waving team would like to add on anyone if you wanted to come. On Wednesday mornings, they're out there at 7:30 just to say good morning and just to say that God loves you. So ultimately, we miss our father. We miss our pastor. Second Baptist Church of Media, if those of you who are members, if you're here, could you please stand? So again, on behalf of the church, on behalf of our family, we thank you so much just for everything you've done. We thank you that even in the days to come, that you will continue to pray for us as we will be in search for a new leader. But that ultimately everything that our father, our pastor embodied, that we continue his legacy on by being kind to one another, by serving one another. Dr. King said this: life's persistent and most urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Thank you.
Amen.
Next, we'll hear from our own media mayor, Bob McMahon.
Thank you, James. I'll only take a half hour. So. Let me echo what a great man Pastor Mays was. I knew him, I guess, for those 28 years. Is that what you said, 28 years? What a wonderful man. Well, welcome to everybody's hometown, Media Borough. I'd like to introduce a couple people that are here tonight. Brian Hall, our president, is here. Hi, Brian. Paul Robinson, Borough Council. Joy Washington, Borough Council. And our police chief, Matt Egan, is here today. Thanks for coming, Matt. I have a couple remarks I want to make. I was asked to speak about the relationship between Media Borough and its role in governance and its interaction with community groups like the NAACP and the Fellowship House. In looking back through the history of my many years in media, I'm not telling you how many, it becomes apparent that countless members of the Borough family have been members, came from or given back to each of these important community groups. You cannot help but be influenced by their mission of the inclusiveness and the justice. Is the Borough Council, is the Borough there yet? No, but we know and seek ways to achieve these goals. And we will in the next couple, I guess the next several years and decades, we will continue to do that. So thank you very much.
Ms. Kathy Anthony.
In the middle of the turbulence surrounding us, these trying times are so hard to endure. In the middle of what seems to be our darkest hour, hold fast your heart and be assured. This too shall pass, like every night that's come before it. He'll never give you more than you can bear. This too shall pass. So with this thought you'll be comforted, for it's in his hands. This too shall pass. Oh yes, the Father knows the tears you cry before they fall. He feels your pain. His heart and yours are one. The Father knows that sorrow's heavy, pains are strong, but with his strength for it. He'll never give you more than you can bear. This too shall pass. So with this thought you'll be comforted, for it's in his hands. This too shall pass. So set your eyes, set them on the mountain, and lift your hands up to the sky, and let his arms of love surround you and take you to the other side. This too shall pass, like every night that's come before it. I'm so glad he'll never give you nor me more than we can bear. This too shall pass. So with this thought you'll be comforted, for it's in his hands. This too shall pass. Yes, it's in his hands. This too shall pass. It shall pass.
And now we have for you Miss Akilah Evans-Pigford, who will be doing our first awards presentation.
Welcome, everyone. We're here today, and I'm pretty excited about this. We're here today to induct the 2023 Spirit Award nominees into the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Spirit Hall of Fame. And as many of us know, Dr. King is known as and beloved for his acts and deeds. His qualities were many and included loyalty, leadership, integrity, honesty, determination, and courage. In 2018, if you all already know, 12 individuals were inducted into the Hall of Fame, and every year since, we've continued to build the Spirit Hall of Fame. It is hoped that the Spirit Hall of Fame will serve as an inspiration for study and reflection and bring a wider audience to an understanding of Dr. King, his mission, and his life. And I am proud to be up here to introduce the first honoree, Akeiff Staples and Brent Johnstone of Fathers Read 365. These guys here, they're not only Temple alumni like myself, so I have to put that out there. I've known Akeiff since we were little. We were small, and like I said, I'm extremely proud of everything these two gentlemen have done. They're community organizers, they're early childhood literacy advocates, something that we very much need, today, and I'm proud to introduce them as one of our 2023 Spirit Hall of Fame awards.
Hello, everyone. Glad to see you all here. Thankful to be here. I want to thank God first and foremost to just be present today. And, you know, with us, it's two of us, so we have to split the time. So I know I only have a certain amount that I could share. But again, just being thankful. You know, my mother's here. I want to thank her. I grew up not even 5 minutes from here. And I attended Second Baptist Church, a lot of Sunday school, probably more Sunday school than church, but you know, I'm thankful for Pastor Mays definitely being a mentor to myself, and you know, my wife and kids here today, very thankful for them. And you know, it's been a journey. It's been a journey. We have our organization, Fathers Read 365, which is devoted to being engaged in our community and being a presence for our youth out here, especially in the communities that we serve, where we feel as though they need it the most, need our services, or can utilize our services the most. And, you know, it's been a joy with myself and Brent, like Akilah said. We all attended Temple University. That is where I met Brent. He knew my wife as a youth growing up. And, you know, it's been a journey ourselves. And Brent, I'm sure, can attest to this, that even to this day, when we talk about the things that we're doing or we're creating with our organization, it's just like we started it yesterday. And we've been going for 6 years now. We started in 2017. And like I said, each and every day it feels like it's new. So when you hear that, those words that when you're doing something you love, it feels as though you've never worked a day in your life, that is the truth. That is the God's honest truth. And before I pass the mic along, I did want to read something. Because for myself, growing up, I've been in a single-parent household the majority of my life. So the models of fathers or men that I've seen, you know, I've had to take in myself and then use that, you know, for my own family, just for what I've seen and built and had to create. So I wrote this because my father, my stepfather, who had passed away 25 years ago, this was in reference to that. And this is on my social media. I usually don't read things too much, but he said, "Boy, you're going to Temple." Those are the last words from my father that still ring so vivid in my head to this day. It was late January 1997, and I was fairly decisive on what university I wanted to attend after high school, and Temple was not at the top of the list. He never said much to me, but at that moment, I listened different. Maybe it was the conviction in his voice of me not turning down a full scholarship, or the fact that he saw something I did not at the time, or both. Who knew less than a year later, I would witness him take his last breath. Only God and the universe truly know the mental work I put in daily to be at peace in my life. Over the past 25 years, it has been a lot of figuring out, sacrifice, frustration, tears, vulnerability, discipline, and faith involved in the process of a young man learning how to be a man. I must say my wife and kids mean the world to me. They saved me, a family to call my own. In my line of work, being able to extend myself as a father to so many children who may not have one present only justifies what my father saw, that regardless of how bad or unsettling a situation may seem, If I trust in my abilities, I can make a difference. So it is an honor. I want to thank you again, Media Fellowship House, Media Area NAACP, for this honor. And I would like to pass the mic on to my partner, co-founder of Fathers Read 365. And I must say, we're known as Mr. A.M.E. out in these literacy streets, Brent Johnstone. Thank you.
I'll keep this right here. I have never been inducted to anyone's Hall of Fame, so I'll be holding this picture with me pretty tight. And I never thought it would be associated with reading. My name is Brent Johnstone, and again, thank you anyone who had anything to do with letting us be here today, inducting us into this Hall of Fame. Very appreciative, very appreciative. Real quick, just want to tell a little bit about myself. My name is Brent Johnstone. I have dyslexia, right? It's very hard for me to read, very hard for me to write. And when I was a kid, I used to feel like I was drowning in school, and I was looking for like a life jacket, someone to throw me a line. And no one really threw me a line besides my mom. And my mom, she would work with me all night to do my homework, to do everything. But long story short, as I grew, I'm like, how can we be that? How can I be that person I wanted to see show up in my schools? I said, well, I could be it, right? And that's one of the things I've learned from Dr. King is it doesn't take much to get out there and just throw yourself at it, right? Once you do it, it's going to take a lot to keep going. But anyone sitting in this room can start a movement. Anyone can start a movement in here. And I challenge you all, if you haven't, do so, and do it with something that you're passionate about, something that you care about, and something that'll change not only the people's lives that you're working with, that'll change your life, because this is life-changing work, and change happens every second. Embrace the change, but more importantly, guys, we could be the change. Thank you again to everyone here at Media. Thank you mostly to my whole crew back there, my family back there, right? But most importantly, my crew right here, my in the house who helped me, let me keep all the books in the house and had me running this crazy schedule, running around the cars full with books all the time, and they say stuff, but they don't say too much. My wife, my son Mason, and my daughter Gianna, thank you guys for loving me. I love you guys, love everyone here, thank you.
All right. For our next award presentation, we have Cynthia Jeter, President of the Media NAACP, providing the presentation.
This is a great way to start, because the young man said, anyone can start a movement. And this is why I'm so excited to present to you this young woman, Ms. Kadida Kenner, who will be receiving the next Spirit Award, but also our keynote speaker. I had the opportunity to hear her speak at several of our NAACP meetings, and I've been blown away ever since the very first time she met with us. And prior to my reading her introduction, I just want to cap it off with this saying, when I reached out to her to see if she was interested in accepting the award and being a keynote speaker, her reply email was, I'm in Georgia, working on the Warnock campaign, knocking on doors. I will get back to you when we return to Pennsylvania. And that just sent shivers up and down my body. In Georgia, from Pennsylvania, knocking on doors. Thank you, Kadida. Kadida Kenner, a voting rights advocate. Kadida is the Chief Executive Officer of the New Pennsylvania Project, a voting rights organization modeled after the successful New Georgia Project started by Stacey Abrams in 2014. The New Pennsylvania Project's primary focus is to civically engage, register, mobilize, and empower often ignored constituents, especially the youth and communities of color in rural, urban, and suburban Pennsylvania to transform and expand the electorate in the Commonwealth. Kadida is a tireless advocate for social and economic justice issues and is motivated to empower and excite the electorate to enthusiastically vote in every election, all the way down the entire ballot, not just for the top two, but vote and be knowledgeable about everyone on the ballot. In addition to working on voting rights, Kadida also served as co-chair of Why Courts Matter, Pennsylvania, an advocacy campaign seeking to protect the independence of our state and federal courts and educate the electorate about their importance. The Temple University, all you Temple folks in the house. The Temple University graduate resides in Philly suburbs and counts civil rights organizing icon and Pennsylvania native Bayard Rustin as her hero. I'd like to present to you Ms. Kadida Kenner, our winner for Spirit Award. Thank you so much. And congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So, podium is yours.
All right. Good afternoon. How's everybody doing today? I have the pleasure of giving the keynote this afternoon. Are you ready for this? All right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I want to thank you for that introduction, Ms. Cynthia, and for the humbling recognition. I want to thank A.M.E. and James. Young Bianca, you are amazing. And everyone from the NAACP Media Area Branch and the Media Fellowship House. Anyone who took part in organizing today's 34th Annual MLK Commemoration and Spirit Hall of Fame Awards. I want to congratulate Akeiff and Brent for their well-deserved recognition for engaging and inspiring the youth. There's truly something special about working with today's youth, I'm sure you know. And I'm sure you both can attest to the fact that these young folks today are brilliant, and they are tough, and they ask tough and brilliant questions, and they are inquisitive. And as you all know, Temple Owls are everywhere. So I am honored to be asked to give and deliver today's keynote address. On this day, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. would have celebrated his 94th birthday. Today we commemorate and honor the tireless work of Dr. King and the woman who enabled it, Mrs. Coretta Scott King, who should also be recognized on this day. I've been asked to speak about voting rights, and I'm going to get to that, but I want to just give you an idea about who I am and how far or how not long ago these battles have gone back. How many of you have met a great-grandparent of yours? How many of you have been held, touched, loved on by a great-grandparent? About half of the room. My great-grandfather was ML Clay, excuse me. I say that all the time when I do this. ML Clay, Milton L. Clay. That's my father's grandfather. He was born enslaved, son of his master, on an Aberdeen, Mississippi plantation in the 1860s, 1850s, 60s, we're not really sure. Birth certificate, we'll get into that issue in a minute. And he went on to go from being enslaved to graduating from Fisk University, moving to Memphis, Tennessee, and being one of the wealthiest and most successful businessmen in all of Tennessee. I always say, don't ask me for anything, I have none of that money. Like many successful black businessmen of his time, he was assassinated in front of one of his businesses. And all of that wealth went away when he went away. He was a co-founder of a bank, Solvent Bank, in Memphis, Tennessee, the first black-owned bank with assets of more than $1 million. He formed that bank with Josiah and Alpha. settle, and he formed that bank at the urgence of Booker T. Washington. His circle was Ida B. Wells. That's who we hung out with. That's who I come from. That's in my DNA. And so I come to you today, the great-granddaughter, right? This is just my great-grandfather of Milton L. Clay, grandfather to my father, Milton Kenner, and my grandmother, Miltonette Clay Kenner. So it runs in my family. So I've been asked here to speak about voting rights and the fight to ensure they remain intact for some 65 years after Dr. King's assassination. And I'm here to tell you today that our voting rights and our freedoms are in peril, especially today, and especially here in Pennsylvania. And that the fierce urgency of now dictates we involve our beloved communities, and especially the youth, to protect our freedoms and rights once again. I have the honor of leading an organization as the CEO, not too many black women CEOs in Pennsylvania, that work tirelessly to protect our freedom to vote and expand the electorate. It was 2 years ago this month I was approached by a group of concerned Pennsylvanians, including former secretaries of PA departments under various administrations, our former Auditor General, former leaders of organizations in our ecosystem, and a few business leaders about my thoughts following the 2020 election. And they wanted to find out from me what I thought about a prospectus they had and how we could get more Pennsylvanians registered to vote in order to secure more political and electoral wins. At that time, I was the director of campaigns for the Pennsylvania Budget and Policy Center, and I had spent the previous 4 years advocating to raise the minimum wage. We are still stuck at $7.25 an hour here in Pennsylvania. Ensure our public schools were fairly and equitably funded. There should be no difference what a school looks like or the treatment students receive on one side of City Avenue versus the other. Working to move policy for free college, and I said free college, in the Commonwealth. And what I hope to be my legacy, which is defending the independence of our courts and ensuring everyone understands their importance, and why we must advocate that they remain the firewall against problematic policies from the legislative branch. Especially as those in power in Harrisburg work to impeach our Supreme Court justices for overturning gerrymandered district maps. And the previous leader of the free world, who worked to make the federal judiciary the whitest and most dangerous it had ever been since the Reagan administration. I went to jail 3 times. I went to jail 3 times on that last one. Inspired by a meeting that I had with the NAACP in Allentown, the Allentown branch, and one of my heroes, the Honorable John Lewis, the angelic troublemaking can be addictive. And I'm still due for another one of those, if anyone would like to join me. It's coming soon. So when others in Pennsylvania asked me for my opinion about how change could happen at the ballot box, I knew the way we could begin to see our needs met, and not for any particular political party, and not for any particular candidate, but for our beloved community, so that we could have a more representative democracy and better realize justice, be it economic justice, reproductive justice, criminal justice, legislative justice. It was going to happen at the ballot box, as Mr. and Mrs. King, Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer, Baird Rustin, and so many others had worked so hard to achieve decades ago. I also knew that in order to get the community closest to the pain, closest to the power, was to ensure those very communities are compelled to get involved and vote. 3 months after the initial conversation with those powerful stakeholders, I decided to leave a good job, y'all, with the Pennsylvania Budget and Policy Center and take a leap of faith and take on the role and responsibility of leading what is today the New Pennsylvania Project and the New PA Project Education Fund. The organization is named in homage to the New Georgia Project and the work of Insa Ufat and Stacey Abrams as the organization worked to empower Black Georgians. Both women have moved on from the New Georgia Project, and it is now being led by my sister in solidarity, Kendra Cotton, as their new CEO. And if you didn't know this, Georgia is now at a 95% voter registration rate. 95% of all Georgians are registered to vote. That's an incredible feat. And as this work is so hard, and it was so hard for them to do that, as many worked diligently to disenfranchise and suppress the vote down south to this day. And that does not absolve Pennsylvania or any other northern state, as I like to refer to Pennsylvania as the most northern southern state. We have our own eminent concerns, as those in power in Pennsylvania are looking to add additional barriers to the ballot with more restrictive voter ID laws. And although we already have one, and it is working, it is really important that you know that these additional barriers would be made through a constitutional amendment, because when unpopular bills without bipartisan support can't move legislatively, legislating by constitutional amendment is the workaround. I remind you of this because we might see a constitutional amendment question on our ballots this May. And that would be to enact more restrictive voter ID laws. So make no mistake, enacting more restrictive measures isn't a way to secure elections. It's a policy to suppress votes and disenfranchise our beloved communities, as we will bear the greatest brunt. I come back to this when I give you the call to action momentarily. The New Pennsylvania Project, we're a voting rights organization founded in May of 2021, when I accepted the position of executive director and amended the theory of change. The organization centers Black, Indigenous, and other communities of color, immigrant communities, and the youth in our work. Here's a not-so-fun fact for all of you. Did you know that only 1 in 4 high school students who are eligible to vote are registered? So if you are in the audience today and you have 4 grandchildren, the odds are only 1 in 4 of your grandchildren are registered to vote. It is time to get them registered. Feel free to send a text message or drop a DM after I finish, find out, I'm just saying. This is a year-round effort and work that we're engaged in, not just work around an election season. It is our mission to expand the electorate in often ignored and disenfranchised communities through civic engagement and education. We meet people where they are in hopes we can get these communities to build power and begin to have their voices heard so they can get their needs met. We need them to vote consistently. In 2022, the New Pennsylvania Project, we registered 20,000 Pennsylvanians to vote. And a lot of them right here in Delaware County. There are 1.7 million Pennsylvanians in this moment who are eligible to vote but not voting. 1.7 million. That's 20% of all Black folks who are eligible to vote are not registered to vote. 31% of all Latinos eligible to vote are not registered to vote. 42% of all Asia Pacific Islanders who are eligible to vote are not registered to vote in the Commonwealth. We don't throw shade at any of these folks because we know there's legitimate reasons they've decided to stay out of the electorate, and there's a common reason. They've been disenfranchised from participating for reasons like access. They don't have access to the materials or resources, and those materials or resources are not in their native language. For others, the system has been designed to keep them from the ballot and the polls. And for some, we engage, they feel as though their votes don't matter because they believe what will be, will be. And if we've learned anything these last years, political theater is on the rise, and it suppresses votes. As an organization, we encounter the last argument more frequently than you'd ever imagine. So what do we do about it? It's time to get involved. Get involved, get re-involved. Our voting rights in Pennsylvania are in peril. Let's go back to restrictive voter ID for a second. Some will say, how hard is it to get an ID? You have to show an ID when you write a check, like anybody's writing checks anymore. You have to show ID when you buy liquor or enter a government building. I want to provide a little reality for you on that argument. How many of you knew a woman named Miss Vivette Applewhite or heard of a Miss Vivette Applewhite? I know the Congresswoman does. I know my mentor, Joe Duvall Flynn, does, Dr. Flynn. Miss Vivette Applewhite of Philadelphia, she was the lead plaintiff in a 2012 lawsuit that was decided by the Commonwealth Court that ruled that restrictive voter ID laws were unconstitutional. Miss Vivette Applewhite was 100 years old. when that decision was made. Ms. Vivette Applewhite had voted in every single election since FDR. But that 2012 election was at risk for her because of voter ID laws, more restrictive voter ID laws. Well, how is it that someone can't get an ID? How's that even possible, people say? Well, if you're a 100-year-old black woman born in the South, you may have never had a driver's license. You may have not been born in a hospital. You may not have access to a birth certificate. All right, some will say, oh, that's just a one-off, that's one person. One person disenfranchised is one person too many. Some of you may have heard about Stacey Abrams and even our own governor-elect having softened on voter ID. And we need to talk about this because voter ID is a popular idea for many, especially those who may not understand the barriers it creates in particular communities and the impact voting to change the Constitution without recourse would have. Here's my thoughts. Most likely without a massive effort to push back on the ballot question, if it appears before us on a May ballot, voter ID will pass. Pennsylvanians will vote yes, as Pennsylvanians have voted yes every single time a constitutional ballot has appeared before them since 1996. We must advocate to counter this barrier. We must reach out to our legislators. You got some sitting right here. But I know that they're on the good side of this fight. Some of them in the room, and some who would never attend an event such as today's. And let them know that if legislation or a constitutional amendment is going to be passed, we need something in exchange. We need same-day voting, like North Carolina. We need early voting, souls to the polls, like in Georgia, you know, those really progressive states. And we need automatic voter registration, like several progressive states in the nation. We can't allow them to enact a barrier without an alternative. So my final thoughts on today. It is shameful that too many of those making empty lip service today and tomorrow are in fact fighting to uphold the very same systems of oppression Dr. King fought against. Our youth, immigrants, Black, Indigenous, and other people of color are especially far too familiar with restrictive voter ID laws, intentionally excessive mail-in ballot requirements. Did you hear 16,000 ballots got thrown out of Pennsylvania? Voter purges, uncooperative voting hours meant to stifle the working class, and excessively long lines, and so much more. Every day we must fight to continue to preserve this democracy. No matter how many MLK appreciation tweets and emails or press releases we're gonna see tomorrow, as long as these folks continue to implement and defend more barriers to the ballot box, they will continue to be nothing more than lip service. In true homage to the continued fight, we must reaffirm Dr. King's statement that now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. We will not wait. So heed this call to action. Please get on your phones, call those legislators, neighbors, your grandchildren. Spread the word because the majority of folks don't know what's happening in Harrisburg. They're too busy trying to put food on the table and clothes on their children's backs. We need to get them registered to vote. If any of you today in this room need to get registered to vote, I would call you to the altar here, but I have staff back here who can assist with that. Danico, are you here, Danico? Danico is right here in red. She's got voter registration forms on her. I have some on me in simple Chinese. Anybody need those? We have closed primaries in Pennsylvania. We have to teach people about that. Because if you are registered unaffiliated, you cannot vote in the primary in May. Do you need to change your voter registration? Did you move? Do you need to change your voter registration? Did your name change? Do you need to change your voter registration? Do you want to switch political parties? Do you need to change your registration? I want to thank, again, Danico for being here today. She is our regional organizing director for Delco and Chester County. She can get you registered to vote. She can help organize events with you and voter registration drives to get more people registered to vote. And I want to thank you for your time today. We will continue to fight for what's fair and what's just in honor of Dr. King and Mrs. Coretta Scott King and every single person who fought for civil rights. And lastly, usually I have my picture of Baird Rustin with me, but I saw Baird Rustin out there in the lobby. Baird Rustin is my hero, my civil rights icon, as he was the organizer for the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom in 1963. He's from Pennsylvania. He's from my hometown of Westchester, Pennsylvania. And I carry him with me to remind you that, there's a lot of people in the background doing a lot of incredible work who don't get the recognition. And please give them the recognition they deserve. I'm sure there's some fellow civil rights advocates in this room who are not being honored today, who definitely deserve this honor as well. I also like to lift up Baird Rustin because he was a gay man, so they kept him in the closet. So I like to bring him out of the closet whenever I go out and talk about him. I also see one of my heroes, Brian Stevenson here. His work is incredible, from Delaware, Brian Stevenson. So I don't want to bring you down here this afternoon. I want to lift you up, and I want to get you inspired to take action. This will not happen with one organization such as mine. 20,000 voter registrations in Pennsylvania is great, but it's not enough. Even if we do register 30,000 this year and 100,000 next year, it's still not enough. So I need all of you to take action. And Baird Rustin said, the proof one truly believes is in action. Please take this MLK Day weekend as an opportunity to do something. Do something to help fix these issues we have. Our voting rights are in peril. Please hear me. Our voting rights are in peril. We have to start talking to one another, beloved community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kadida. And now Ms. A.M.E. Komarnicki will introduce our special guest of roll call attendees.
Kadida, thank you. You have blessed us with your words. You have called us to use our voices and our vote to create change. You have challenged us to recognize the inequalities that continue to exist when it comes to voting rights. There is work to be done, and we leave inspired to be agents of change within our own circles of influence and also to reach into underrepresented communities. Now, at this time in the program, it is my honor to welcome some special guests here with us today, public officials and community leaders who represent the concerns of Delaware County residents. I welcome all of you, and then each in turn can come to the stage to speak and offer remarks. We welcome Sharon Booker, Vice Chair of the Delaware County's Democratic Party, Congresswoman Mary Gay Scanlon, serving Pennsylvania's 5th Congressional District, Senator Tim Kearney, serving the 26th Senatorial District, Representative Lisa Borowski, serving the 168th District, Representative Leanne Krueger, serving the 161st Legislative District, George Choe, President and CEO of Jaisohn Memorial Foundation, Joy Washington, Council Member of the Media Borough Council, Tahmir Johnson, the NAACP Youth and College Rep of Cheney University, and Representative Jennifer O'Mara of the 165th District. And first we welcome Sharon Booker.
Good afternoon. My name is Sharon Booker, and I am one of 3 vice chairs of the Democratic Party of Delaware County. Dr. Martin Luther King said, "I have come to see more and more than one of the most decisive steps that the Negro can take is that little walk to the voting booth. That is an important step. We've got to gain the ballot, and through that, gain political power." I'm here also to talk about the vote. I, too, am a second-generation alumni of Temple University. I can recount my ancestry lineage in the United States back to 1780. And what I have in common with the 14 generations that came before me is that I was not born with the right to vote. Yet I stand here before you today, proof positive that your vote does count. We have to do better. We have to do better with voting, with getting people out to vote, with educating people about the vote, all the things that my sister here said, and more. I also want to encourage all elected officials to encourage young people about the electoral process and mentor them so that when we leave, we can fill those seats with people who are dedicated to the values that make our country great and make us inclusive and also supportive of things like women's rights, voter rights, discrimination rights, housing, fair housing. All of these things are because of our right to vote. It's our vote that makes these things possible. It's our vote that makes equality possible. It's our vote that raises the minimum wage. It's our vote that gives women rights. It's our vote that has the anti-discrimination laws against gays. It's our vote that makes this country a possibility where we can thrive. Again, I'm proof positive. I live here in Delaware County. During the time of Martin Luther King, I could not even live in the house that I bought in Sharon Hill because black people weren't allowed to live there. Yet I stand here before you today, not only living in that neighborhood, thriving in that neighborhood, getting people to vote, getting people organized. I am here to tell you that all of us have got to get involved. All of us have to be advocates for the vote. I thank you so much, and let's all do all we can to promote the right to vote.
Good afternoon. I'm Mary Gay Scanlon, and it is my honor to be the Congresswoman for Pennsylvania's 5th District. It's also my honor to be here with you today. This is always one of the most exciting MLK Day celebrations in this area because it's so substantive. It celebrates the heritage with all of the work that's been done here, from Bayard Rustin to MLK, Joan Duvall Flynn, just all the activists in our region and the continuing activity that we see today. So grateful to Media Fellowship and the Media NAACP because they're really working on the fundamental issues that we need to address. The work with respect to housing that Media Fellowship has been working on in the Media NAACP. The work on the advocacy around civil rights. Kadida, you were such a rock star. It was a pleasure to go back to DC, not always a pleasure, but to go back to DC after the elections and people say, what the heck happened in Pennsylvania? You guys killed it. And it was because people understood. I mean, Pennsylvania has been, the bullseye for all this anti-democratic activity now for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, actually more than a decade. People here understand how important it is, and we've organized, and we're fighting back, and we're registering voters, and people understand the stakes. We're going to have to keep fighting. This constitutional amendment is a real threat. Kadida talked about how one vote matters, but we know from the last go-round on this strict voter ID proposal that it would have disenfranchised 500,000 to 600,000 Pennsylvanians. We got testimony as to that in the last go-round. This is a big deal. So a lot of work to do there around voting rights, a lot of work to do around how we give our kids a better start, but with folks like Bianca here, I'm very, very hopeful. The work that Brent and Akeiff have been doing, thank you so much. We've got a lot of challenges that we're facing out there, Kevin McCarthy among them. But what we know is we have wonderful programs and projects going on right here in our community that we're expanding throughout the country, throughout the Commonwealth. That gives me a lot of hope, helping our kids get a good start, helping folks get the housing they need, helping them get their voices so they can elect people up and down the ballot, from the local level to the federal level, who are actually going to help them and be there for them. So thank you for allowing me to be here, and keep up the good work, everyone. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Tim Kearney. I represent the 26th District in the Commonwealth Senate. It's an honor to be here. Before I begin, I'd like to thank Media Area NAACP and the Media Fellowship House for once again hosting this celebration. You know, it's proper and it's good that our nation pauses to celebrate the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King and the impact of his work. Nearly 55 years after his death, Dr. King's spirit continues to propel our nation and those who believe in equality. His life's work is a blueprint for the world to push back and fight against injustice. Dr. King's name is synonymous with civil rights, voting rights, economic justice, social activism, and so much more. In reflecting on all that he accomplished, advocated for, and against, I'm humbled, and I'm inspired to do what I can do to carry the torch forward. To me, that means defending and expanding voting rights that are under attack here in Pennsylvania and across the country. Just this week, Pennsylvania Senate Republicans moved to pass a constitutional amendment, Senate Bill 1, which would require ID at the polls and for mail-in ballots. Well, no one, including the majority party, has any idea how it's actually supposed to work. I do know this: bills like this will further discourage people from engaging in the process. And we are living in a time when not many of us are voting. We should be doing the opposite in creating safe, secure, and convenient ways for people to participate. There was some discussion about constitutional amendments. You know, the last time in Pennsylvania when we passed one, which was just a couple of years ago, less than 11% of eligible voters actually voted on that particular constitutional amendment. My part in being of service and advancing Dr. King's legacy to achieve equality will be to vote no on this constitutional amendment and any similar legislation that seeks to make voting harder or looks to marginalize or disenfranchise people. But no one can simply rely on electeds to do the right thing. The fight for justice is a team sport, and everyone needs to participate. That means planning to vote in every primary, every election, no matter how small. This year we have local judicial races, county races, local government races. While they may not look too important to the average Joe, they are enormously consequential for racial, environmental, health equity in Delaware County. At a time when racism is on the rise, when hate and violence are on the rise, voting to uphold our ideals is a baseline of service. So being of service will look differently to each of us, but every single one of us has a role to play. Our individual efforts to make a difference are collective strides that will strengthen Dr. King's living legacy. I know what my part will be as an elected official. I encourage each of you to lean into what you have to offer and be confident that it will move us closer to Dr. King's dream. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jennifer O'Mara, not a new state representative, but a new to Media Borough. And I'm jumping the order a little bit here because I have a 5-month-old at home who is anxious for me to get home. So I just wanted to start first by thanking the media area NAACP and the Media Fellowship House for organizing this event and for including us in this event. It is very nice to be with people again and to see faces. I also want to congratulate our award winners, Kadida, Brent, and Akeiff. Kadida has knocked doors in more than just Georgia and Pennsylvania. I know of Texas as well, and I'm sure there are more states. But it really feels fitting in what I wanted to talk about with the work that you both are doing. So every single night before my daughter goes to bed, and since she was born, I read her a book. And I worry about how I will deal with the challenges that she will bring me as she grows older. Last night, I read her a new book that we were just given to us called I Am Martin Luther King Jr. It's a kid's board book. Actually, it's not a board book, it's a kid's book, but it tells you about Martin Luther King Jr. through a kid's perspective. And the 2 lessons in there were really lessons for her, but they're going to stay with me as I raise her. In the beginning, Martin talks about his friend. He was a little white boy that was his friend. And after the 2 of them went to school, his friend, he never said his name, but he came home and told Martin they couldn't be friends anymore because of the color of his skin. And Martin had other things. Dr. King Jr., and he's a kid, talks about getting ice cream in flimsy cups compared to the nice cups that the white kids got, or not being able to sit on the bus in the same area that his other friends were sitting in. And he went home and he talked to his parents about this, and he could have gotten angry, but his parents taught him to meet that hate with love and to meet that anger and inequity with love. And that is such an important lesson for us to carry. There's so much anger and animosity and tension in our world, but we have to meet it with love, or we're never going to see positive change. And then Martin says to himself, he just had to ask himself this question. And as you flip the page, and I let her flip the page, so imagine it takes some time for a 5-month-old to flip a page. And I'm wondering, what's this question that he asks himself? Is it going to be, why is this happening? Is it going to be, what made this world so unfair? No, the question he asks himself is, what am I going to do to make things better? And that's a question that we all have to ask ourselves. What are we going to do to make things better? So yes, we are facing a dismal situation with voting in Pennsylvania, but what am I going to do to make it better? I'm introducing an early voting bill and hoping to bring early voting souls to the polls in Pennsylvania. And we're going to continue to try and do things to make positive change for all of us every single day, little by little. And I do that with my colleagues here and with fierce advocates like Kadida, keeping us on the right path. So thank you all for being here, for keeping the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. alive, and for including us in this remarkable and wonderful birthday celebration. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this moving tribute to Reverend Dr. King and his legacy. My name is Lisa Borowski, and I'm the newly elected state representative for the 168th State Legislative District. Yes, I beat Chris Quinn, so I am thrilled and proud to be here, and I'm honored and humbled to share this day with you all of you who see inequity, you see need, and you take action. Programs like this today are so important, not only for keeping the memory of Dr. King in the forefront, but to ensure his legacy continues to live and breathe through our words, our deeds, and our actions. It is important to remember that while we have come here to protect and are talking about protecting our most basic civil rights, we have come so far since Dr. King first set the wheels of justice and equality for all in motion, but we still have a long way to go. Together, we must move boldly forward, knowing that, as he said, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. By gathering today, we are not silent, but joined as one to keep moving forward with one voice as we advocate for the freedoms all deserve. I want to thank the Media Area NAACP and Media Fellowship House. I look forward to working with you as we move forward in Dr. King's vision and in his spirit. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Leanne Krueger, and I'm proud to represent the 161st District here in Delaware County. It includes Aston, Brookhaven, Nether Providence, Ridley, Rose Valley, and in the new maps, the lower part of Middletown Township and Chester Township and Upland. Every year on Dr. King's birthday, I have a practice. I read Letter from a Birmingham Jail. And this is a letter that I first read when I was studying in New York City in a racial justice learning program when I was in college. And it is a response to a group of white clergy who are critiquing his methods. And I read it as a message to those of us who hope to be white allies and advocates, and read it with humility. And so in the letter, there's a point where the clergy are criticizing civil disobedience. And his response is that the fact that there are two types of laws, just and unjust, I would be the first to advocate obeying just laws. One has not only a legal but a moral responsibility to obey just laws. Conversely, one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. I would agree with St. Augustine that an unjust law is no law at all. And for those of us who identify as people of faith, there's a passage in the book of Isaiah that says, "Woe to you who make unjust laws." Now, folks, I've been in the State House for 7 years, and it's been more than once that I have stood on the House floor and quoted from the book of Isaiah, because unjust laws have passed our legislative chamber over and over and over again. And that constitutional amendment that Kadida talked about, that Mary Gay talked about, that Tim just told us moved through the Senate last week, those of us in the House are going to do everything we can to stop it. Voting matters. And we've got 3 special elections coming up on February 7th. Our colleagues on the other side of the aisle actually went to court to try to stop almost 200,000 people in Allegheny County from having representation in the State House. And why is that? Because they wanted the votes to pass that constitutional amendment. Now, the good news is that those elections are now just over 3 weeks away, and when those members are seated, we will have the votes in the House to stop it. But it's not just this attack on voting rights that we need to be aware of. Every legislative session, we see attempts, bills introduced to try to block the right to vote. Sometimes for some folks, sometimes for all folks, sometimes for young folks. Constitutional amendment that has been moving through includes language to actually change the voting age in Pennsylvania from 18 to 21. It's not being talked about very much. But young people would be disenfranchised with this language. And so my pledge to you today is that I and my Democratic colleagues in the House are going to do everything we can to try to stop this constitutional amendment from making it to the ballot. Thanks so much.
It's not always a good idea to follow the politicians for the discouraging message. And also James told me to come and explain about explain why I'm standing here. And some of you may know about the Dr. Philip Jaisohn, who's a longtime resident of media. And also, he was the first Korean to get a U.S. citizenship in 1890. And he was also first U.S. educated medical doctors. And so he's an incredible man. And today, my message is simply sharing 4 extra facts about Dr. Jaisohn that will give you some idea about why I'm standing here. James also reminded me that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. also took tips from the India struggle for independence about nonviolent peace movement and nonviolent social change. So number 1 facts, and when you go to Independence Mall, you will see the Faith and Liberty Discovery Center. And in it, you go to Liberty Gallery, you will see that both Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Dr. Philip Jaisohn are displayed close to each other as 22 liberty change makers, along with Abraham Lincoln. And number 2, Dr. Philip Jaisohn was the first publisher ever of a Korean language newspaper in Korea because he wanted to educate general public about their rights for freedom and independence from foreign influence. Number 3, Dr. Jaisohn founded the Independence Club in Korea. In its 1897 document, I recently learned this, quote, "The debate was closed with an eloquent address by Dr. Philip Jaisohn, in which he depicted the horrors of African slavery as it existed in the United States. The results of debates were far-reaching with the resolution, quote, resolved, the slavery is a crime morally and politically and should not be tolerated. On that day, remember 1897 in Korea, at least 100 Korean slaves obtained their freedom. Number 4, in April 1919, during the first Korean Congress in Philadelphia, Dr. Jaisohn talked about permanent peace and democracy and Christianity to be established in Asia. More than 100 years later, we are questioning about the peace and the democracy today in the United States. As we celebrate the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, we should remind ourselves to teach our young generation about the history of Dr. Martin Luther King and his ideals, because it's so important for the identity of our young generation and their leadership development. But having said that, today I was listening to Bianca. She should come actually teach us about Dr. Jaisohn. Again, thank you for this opportunity. I think an opportunity like this, we learn about our histories and we learn about each other. Thank you.
Oh, I'm very short. Whoops. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for attending this amazing event from the Media Fellowship House and oh, there I am, sorry. It's my first time up here. But my name is Choe Washington, and I am a council member on Media Borough Council. This is my first year, so I definitely thank everyone for inviting me for this amazing event. So I'm here to talk about why voting is a right, not a privilege. August 6th of this year will mark the anniversary of the Voting Rights Act being signed into law. We must remember the good trouble that made civil rights and voting rights possible for all. We also must remember the continued efforts that weaken voting rights today. Constitutional amendments on discriminatory voter ID laws and restrictive local zoning also aids voter suppression. These tactics continue to prevent voting access from young people, poor people, people with unstable housing, and people without reliable transportation. When you see who becomes affected by these new voter suppression tactics, it's no surprise that large numbers of people of color, poor people, people without reliable public transportation, and people with disabilities are still being segregated from the ballot box by design. Voting is not simply about winning or losing. It's about which issues empower or disempower voters. This is why we must all vote every year and understand who truly wants to run for our local school boards, councils, judges, district attorney, state representatives, and many other important positions. Local elections are just as important as national elections. They can determine how near or far you live from your polling locations, when and how your trash gets collected, providing emergency services, if and how walkable your community will become, and whether the topic of voting rights is even allowed to be taught in classrooms. In closing, we are guaranteed the right to vote. Any measures made to prevent turnout is actively halting progress for all. With voting rights, everyone has a chance to have a seat at the table because voting rights unlocks all other rights. The right to vote also unlocks inclusionary zoning, housing affordability, fair housing, traffic calming, public transit, public safety, public transit funding, vote by mail, walkable towns and cities, disability rights, women's rights, freedom from car dependency, the right to love, environmental rights, the right to be who you are, the right to dignity, and so many more that I can stand here and list all day. Let's look forward to voting for positive changes up and down the ballot. After today, or even tonight actually, please check your voter registration status and make sure you're registered to vote at your current address so you can participate in every election, especially the May 16th primary elections. And please do not forget your local councils and school boards. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tahmir Johnson. I'm 21 years old, Philadelphia native, and I'm currently a junior attending Cheney University, the first HBCU. And I'm here for Cheney and NAACP Cheney and Youth College Representative, and I'm here to just give y'all some brief remarks on how the NAACP have made and has had an effect on the university. First, I want to say that the NAACP has become a stepping stone for the university and giving the kids that attend the school knowledge behind voting, and also preparing them for the society for society and their adulthood. So I'm here as a young black man, 21 years old. I want to make a change for the university, but then giving like a face that's similar to theirs, and also in the same age range. Is not like they won't just be listening to somebody older that it just seem like they're teaching them something. So now, me being here, it will allow me to become the face of the Cheney NAACP organization, and also just basically provide knowledge for the children for the young adults on the university. And thank you guys for having me. And I also want to thank Ms. Jetter for sending the invitation out to my mentor and allowing me to be here. Thank you guys very much.
All right, we're nearing the end of our program. We're going to have a brief musical interlude by Miss Danie Ocean, a native of South Media, kind of a neighbor around the corner from me. She's a wonderful entertainer. Miss Ocean.
This is a Patty Griffin song
that was inspired by Martin Luther King. It's called Up to the Mountain. I went up to the mountains because you asked me to. Looked over the clouds where the sky was blue. I could see all around me, every way. I could see all around me, every way. Sometimes I feel like I've never been nothing but tired, and I'll be working till the day I expire. Sometimes I lay down, no more can I do, but then I go on again, because you asked me to. Some days I look down, afraid I will fall, and though the sun shines, I feel nothing at all, and then I hear you sweet voice, oh, oh, come and then go, telling me softly you love me so. The peaceful valley just over the mountain, the peaceful valley, few come to know. I may never get there ever in this lifetime, but sooner or later, sooner or later, sooner or later, the stair I will go.
Just want to say what an honor and privilege it's been to be here with you all today. Want to offer a closing prayer for us. Source of hope, source of justice, we are grateful for the opportunity to have come together today to honor and celebrate the good work that so many in this room are doing to help create a better future for all our citizens. A future where discrimination and inequality become bywords of the past. A future where, as Dr. King noted, we judge each other by the content of our character, not the color of our skin. We give thanks for the examples we have seen and witnessed today of all who are engaged in the daily efforts to strengthen families and communities and to enliven our democracy. May the work of their hands and hearts be blessed. May today's ceremony inspire me. May it inspire us, letaken olam b'malchut Shaddai, to heal and repair the world, to create a society where every single being is seen as the sacred reflection of the divine. There is so much work to still do in the world, and none of us are perfect. But let us not let our imperfections stop us from our work of addressing inequality and inequity. And let us remember that the common bonds that connect us to each other are so much stronger than our differences. Baruch atah Adonai, blessed are you, source of hope. Hagoel otanu mitzarut lehidrachavut, who empowers us out of the narrows into the expansive places. Venotea betochenu ahava achva bereut, and plants within us the seeds of love and friendship. Litzor olam michadash, to recreate the world with new possibility. Baruch ha'olamim, blessed is the life of all worlds. Amen.
Ms. Anthony is going to entertain us with a rendition of the Black National Anthem. Lift every voice and sing.
I'm not singing this by myself, so I'm asking you if everyone could please stand, and I'm going to lead you. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
All right, we have reached the closing of our program. I'm going to be very brief. First, I just want to call out one thing. Is Mayor McMahon still here? I understand you had a birthday recently. Isn't this your, what, your 20th birthday? Well, happy birthday. I want to thank Reverend Rookard and the First Methodist Church of Media family for welcoming us to this wonderful church. They've hosted this event as long as we know. I haven't been around all that time, but yeah, this is just amazing. They have never asked a single thing of us, and it's just overwhelming that they've opened their heart to us so much. Just in closing, I just want to reinforce one thing. We had this lineup of our dignitaries basically giving us messages, telling us that we need to take action, we need to be alert to what's going on. And I'm not sure if everybody's heard about this, but there was a story just very recently where NPR was broadcasting this child book reading to elementary kids. And apparently they're reading some Dr. Seuss book called Sneetches, which I'm not really that familiar with. But the lesson was about economy and economics. But apparently there's also some message in there about treating people right and racism and things. They cut it off. They interrupted the broadcast and said, oh, we can't do this. We can't give lessons that include teaching grade school kids to be tolerant of others. It makes you wonder what is going on today. You know, the messages these guys are giving us are real, and we need to take it to heart. And I hope everybody's listening and caught some lessons from our favorite speakers over there. Thank our honorees for all your contributions. Thank you, Kadida, for all that you've done pretty much everywhere in America. And I want to say, everybody have a good day. Go in peace. Thank you.